Chapter 4, Projection of the Etheric Body. In this chapter, we go over etheric protection, etheric projection, experience with the projected etheric body of an adept, repercussion, artificial elementals, experience of accidental projection of a word wall, method of its destruction. As I always say, bear with me, y'all, because y'all know they wrote this book a long time ago. So I'm trying to do it in a modern way. I'm trying to translate it as I read it. Also remember that psychic self-defense is basically having the strength over your own mind, over your own mental state, not allowing someone or something else to have power over your own mental state, over your own emotional state. That's the basics of it. But we're going to get into the book. Before we can leave the subject of an attack by incarnate human beings, we must consider the subject of etheric projection. In this case, not only is the mind at work, but also something which is pretty nearly physical, sufficiently physical, at any rate, to leave bruises on the flesh of the victim, throw the furniture around, or at least make a considerable amount of noise. Where such manifestations take place, it is obvious that we are dealing with something more substantial than the mind. For although mind can influence mind, and through it, the body, to an extent to which, in the present state of our knowledge, it is difficult to set limits. Mind cannot manipulate matter directly. That is to say, you cannot smash a window by means of a thought. There must be some physical vehicle that can be manipulated by the mind if effects are to be brought on the physical plane. The living body is such an instrument. It is manipulated by the mind every time a voluntary movement takes place, and the operations of spiritual healing are simply an extension of this principle to the involuntary muscles and physiological processes not ordinarily directed by the conscious mind. Occultists maintain that mind affects body by means of the etheric double, as it is called, the mortal mind of the Christian scientists. We may not unreasonably conclude that when physical action is produced at a distance by occult means, it is done by employing this etheric double. The etheric double is primarily a body of magnetic stresses in the framework of whose meshes every cell and fiber of the physical body is held as in a rack. But intermediate between this and the dense physical body as we know it, there is what may be called the raw material out of which dense matter is condensed. This was called by the ancients how, or first matter, and by the moderns, ectoplasm. It is this projected ectoplasm which produces the phenomena whenever physical manifestations are in question. It may be projected as long rods, which will operate up to a distance of a dozen feet or so, or it may be projected as a nebulous cloud connected with the medium by a teeniest thread. This cloud can be organized into distinct forms, having the semblance of life and acting as vehicles for conscious wills. There is a great deal of information available on this subject in the literature of spiritualism, to which reference may be found in the bibliography at the end of this book. The adept, the student who was head of the occult college to which I have previously referred, and from whom I received my first training in occultism, was able to perform this operation, and I have many times seen him do it. He would go into a deep trance after a few convulsive movements, somewhat like a slow tetany, and would then lose about two-thirds of his weight. I have many times helped to lift him or even lifted him single-handed when he was in this state, and he weighed no more than a child. A man can fake many things, but he cannot fake his weight. I have lifted him single-handedly from the floor onto a sofa when in this state. It is quite true that, being rigid as a board, he was much easier to handle than the ordinary limp, unconscious human form. But there is a certain ratio between the weight of a grown man and the strength of a woman of average physique. What became of the missing weight on these occasions, I found out one night. He had been ill with some delirium, and the lion's share of the nursing, especially the night work. This is what I mean by these words, the way they talk. But just bear with me. We're going to get to the juice. All the juice is in here. Just pick out what you can. I know some of y'all might understand this because some of y'all probably grew up around these type of vocabulary. I didn't. I grew up in the hood. I didn't grow up hearing people saying, he had been ill with some delirium in the lion's share of the nursing. I didn't grow up around that. But I can comprehend what's being said. I'm just trying to keep the pace on this live without being boring while I'm reading, while simultaneously trying to comprehend how it's being said. Okay. He had been ill with some delirium, and the lion's share of the nursing, especially the night work, had fallen to my lot. There came a time, however, when we decided that he was so far removed that it was unnecessary for anyone to sit with him. So to bed we all went. For the first time in several days, I shared a room with another member of the community. It was a comparatively small cottage we were in, and our two beds were close together, side by side, right under the uncurtained open window. It was the time of the full moon, and I remember that I had no need to light a candle in order to undress myself. I fell asleep at once, for I was very tired. I could not have been asleep very long. However, when I was awakened by the sensation of a weight upon my feet, it was as if a good-sized dog, let's say a collie, had jumped up and laid down on the bed. The room was flooded with moonlight, in as bright as day, and I clearly saw, lying apparently asleep across the foot of my bed, the man whom we had left safely tucked for the night. In the room below, it was somewhat an embarrassing situation, and I lay still, taking thought before I did anything. I was wide enough awake by now and may well be imagined. I concluded that Z, as I will call this man, had either a return of delirium or was sleepwalking. In any case, I was very anxious to get him safely back to bed again without a fuss or a scene. My companion had a heartbeat, and I did not want her to get a shock. I don't know how I read that. It said, my companion had a bad heart, and I did not want her to get a shock. Neither did I want him to get a shock in his weak state. I was afraid that if I asked my roommate first, she might scream and wake Z up with a start with disastrous consequences. I decided, therefore, to wake him gently, as being the worst case of the two, and let her take her chance, having and let her take her chance. I finally took action. I sat up in bed and I leaned quietly toward with the intention of touching him gently on the shoulder and so arousing him. In order to lean forward, I had to withdraw my feet from under him, for they were pinned by his weight, which until now had rested upon them. For I had been careful not to stir while thinking out my plan of campaign. Z was plainly visible in the moonlight, apparently in his nightgown, or so I took the muffling folds of material to be that swatched him about. Both his face and wrapping appeared gray and colorless in the moonlight, but there was no question in my mind as to his solidar- solidarity, for not only could I see him, but I could feel his weight resting upon my feet. But the moment I moved, he vanished, and I was left staring in amazement at the smooth fold of the blankets over the end of the little camp bed on which I lay. It was then, it was then, and only then, that I realized he had appeared all gray and colorless, more like a shaded pencil sketch than a human being of flesh and blood. I asked him about this incident in the morning, but he said he had no recollection of it. He had been dreaming the uneasy, broken dreams of a sick man, but could not recall them. This, of course, was in no way an occult attack, but rather the visit of a friend who had come to lean upon me in the course of his illness and instinctively came to me for consolation when out of his body in trance at a time when his weakened condition prevented him from retaining his normal control over his psychic activities. Nevertheless, it serves to illustrate what could be done if the etheric form that visited me had been energized by a malignant will. It may explain the nature of the sense of weight that oppresses the victims found on the throats of people who had been victims of a natural attack. I had never actually seen such bruises myself, but I have been told of them by people who either had them themselves or seen them. Let me highlight this for myself for my own. Okay. It is a well known fact that if an occultist functioning out of the body meets with unpleasantness on the astral plane, or if his subtle body is seen and struck or shot at, the physical body will show the marks. I don't know about that. I don't know if I agree with that, but we're going to keep reading. And there's a reason I say that I don't know if I agree with that. But That's the point of me studying these things and being interested in these things. Because sometimes I don't know if I'm lucid dreaming, astral traveling, or just having a regular dream. Because there's been many times where I've had dreams where things happened to me and I woke up. I didn't have any bruises or marks on my body. But I could be wrong. Maybe I wasn't astral projecting. Maybe I was just in my mind. I don't know. But that's the point. That's the point of it all. Okay, boom. I have never actually seen such bruises myself, but I have been told of them by people who have either had them themselves or seen them. It is a well-known fact that if an occultist functioning out of the body meets with unpleasantness on the astral plane, or if his subtle body is seen and struck or shot at, the physical body will show the marks. I myself have many times found curiously patterned bruises on my body after an astral skirmish. Now, I have felt things. That's what I have. I have been shot at in my dream or in my astral projection, and I did feel it when I woke up. One time I had a dream, somebody took a gun, put it to my stomach, and shot me. When I woke up, I could still feel it. It wasn't on marks there though, but I could still feel it. So okay, I kind of get that part. The mechanism of the production of such marks must, I think, I think, be of the same nature as that which produces the stigmata, the stigma, see what's talking about these words, of saints and the curious physical marks and swellings sometimes seen in hysterics. The mind, powerfully stirred, affects the etheric double, and the etheric double acts upon the physical molecules held in its meshes. I dare to prophesy the next advances in medicine will be bound up with the knowledge of the nature and function of the etheric double. The next type of psychic attack which we must consider is that conduced by means of artificial elementals. These are distinguished from thought forms by the fact that once formulated by the creative mind of the magician, they possess a distinct and independent life of their own. What they call them things? They call them like servitudes or something like that. It's kind of sound like they talking about when you create something in your mind. Like let's say you create a being in your mind, and you put so much thought and feeling and belief and faith into that being that you created that it actually exists in the astral plane. So, for example, we all like to watch SpongeBob. After so many of us put our thoughts and feelings into SpongeBob, SpongeBob becomes real in the astral plane. And he has a life. He has a life, an independent life of his own. Okay. The life of these creatures is akin to that of an electric battery. It slowly leaks out by means of radiation, and unless recharged periodically, will finally weaken and die. So when they say recharge periodically, that means you thinking about it, you focusing on it, you give them some type of emotion to it to keep it alive. Same thing when you get attacked psychically by somebody, the more you give it thought and feeling, the more you allow it to affect you. You can even do this to yourself, positively or negatively. You can think something so good about yourself, and it can feel so good to you that it affects you in a good way. You can think something so bad and feel so bad about it that it affects you in a negative way. The whole question of the making, charging, recharging, or destruction of these artificial elementals is an important one in practical occultism. Hence the word artificial elementals. So that must mean that's not the real deal. Meaning that there must be real elementals, which I'm sure there are. The artificial elemental is constructed by forming a clear-cut image in the imagination of the creature it is intended to create, ensouling it with something of the corresponding aspect of one's own being, and then invoking into it the appropriate natural force. This method can be used for good as well as evil, and guardian angels are formed in this way. So you could do the same thing, like I said, for yourself. You can create guardian angels. We do it all the time. We don't be normally be doing this stuff though, because it's just normal. It's just normal shit. We just make it far fetched because we don't believe that this stuff is possible. And but you do it all the time, like when you be praying and you be like, I'm protected. Protect me. You creating something protecting you, whether it's a being, a force, a shield, energy, spirit, a bubble, whether it's just you signaling out to other people in your environment, I am protected. Therefore, when you go out and step out into the world, they picking up this signal that you giving out and they won't bother you, but they'll bother the next person who don't feel protected. It's the game of life. I had a friend, I used to say, life is a game. They used to get mad at me. Like, life ain't a game. You think everything's funny. And I was like, no, I don't think it was funny, but they just didn't understand where I was coming from. And I didn't care to explain it that much either. I just used to laugh it off. But it's the game of life. And the way you play the game of life is mentally and emotionally. Physically is the effect. It's not the cause. It's the effect of your cause. Your cause is your mental state and your emotional state. That's what caused you to have a physical experience. This method can be used for good as well as evil, and guardian angels are formed in this way. It is said that dying women, anxious concerning the welfare of their children, frequently form them unconsciously. It's like I just said, they don't even know they're doing it. And you could do it the other way around too. You start saying shit like, I hate that motherfucker. It's like you casting spells and shit, but you don't know you're doing it because see, the movies in Hollywood, even some books, like fictional books, they got you thinking you got to be lighting candles and drawing circles and drawing five-pointed stars and symbols and standing in the middle of them and chanting, and you'll summon a demon. You don't have to do all that. Don't get me wrong. It's a reason why they do that. They do that because it reinforces the belief system. It gives it energy. It's like, okay, if I draw this circle and stand in it, this motherfucking shit better happen. Versus you just waking up and saying the shit, but you don't really believe the shit. And then you're like, why this shit don't work for me? Because you don't really believe it. It still works for you. It's just weak. So it's like you creating a weak something versus another person who really believe this shit creating a stronger version of the same thing. But you don't have to beat yourself up because some people have experiences that cause them to their belief system to go up. So let's say you sitting in your room and a ghost pop up in your room, a spirit pop up in your room, and it start talking to you. Your belief system is gonna be stronger than the person who didn't have that experience. And you know you ain't tripping. You ain't have no alcohol. You didn't smoke no weed. You didn't smoke no crack. You didn't smoke no meth. You don't take no prescription drugs. You wasn't doing nothing but chilling, mind your business, and then it just a spirit, a ghost just popped up in your room and said, "Hey, what's up?" Or they didn't say nothing. They just popped up in your room, looked at you, and disappeared. You had an experience that the other person didn't have. So to you, you became curious and you said, "Damn, it was a fucking ghost popped up in my room." You got an experience to boost your faith, your belief, your knowing, versus the other person who never had these experiences. They gonna look at your ass like you crazy. They gonna be like, this motherfucker tripping. Someone the ghost came in their room and told them to go around the corner and pick the thing up. And then they found $1,000,000. Which they actually did, but nobody don't believe that. So more people like, I'm not telling nobody shit. That's the wise thing to do is don't tell nobody shit unless you can trust them. But now, since we awakening, since a lot of us are awakening, and we start to become more curious, it's now more acceptable to talk about these things. People still gonna look at you like you're crazy if you go too far. Because I have talked to people who claim that they believe in metaphysics and esoterics. But if you start talking too much for the human mind to comprehend, those same people who think they so awake, they gonna show you they ain't. And if you just be quiet and listen, they'll talk about somebody right in front of you. They be like, that motherfucker crazy. And that's what happened to me one time. A person who's told me, "Oh, I believe in aliens and I believe in ghosts and I believe in what was he talking about? Aliens and AIs and angels and demons and spirits." And they said they believe in all this stuff. But as soon as another person came around and started talking about it, when they started getting deep into it, they said that person, as soon as that person left, they was like, that motherfucker crazy. And I'm sitting there like, you just said you believe all this stuff. So I'm just boom, boom, bop, mind my business. I just get on here and talk about it. That way, you don't have to watch it. If you don't want to watch it, you can go watch something else. If you think I'm crazy, you just call me crazy and go on about your business. I don't have to know about it. Luckily, I haven't had those experiences. Most of my comment section is, I got some pretty damn good comments in my comment section on most of our videos. I don't really have a lot of negative people in my comment section. And I am so grateful for that. But I know as my channel grows, I have 1,300 subscribers right now. I know once that 1,300 turn into 130,000, my comment section gonna look completely different. But I'm prepared for it because my mind is stronger than my comment section. Okay, boom. My emotions are stronger than my comment section. Can't nobody come and fuck my day up just because they feel like it. Can't nobody come to me and say, you ain't shit, and then I go home depressed. It's not ever going to happen. Okay, boom. I myself once had an exceedingly nasty experience in which I formulated a werewolf accidentally. Unpleasant as the incident was, I think it may be just as well to give it publicity, for it shows what may happen when an insufficiently disciplined and purified nature is handling occult forces. I had received serious injury from someone who, at considerable cost to myself, I had disinter- disinterestedly disinterestedly helped, and I was sorely tempted to retaliate. Lying on the bed, resting one afternoon, I was brooding over my resentment, and while I was brooding, drifting towards the borders of sleep. That's the key. Drifting towards the borders of sleep. She was she was resenting while she was falling asleep. Okay, boom. There came to my mind the thought of casting off all restraint and going berserk. The ancient Nordic myths rose before me, and I had thought of Fenris, the wolf, horror of the north. Immediately, I felt a curious drawing out sensation from my solar plexus, and there materialized beside me on the bed a large wolf. It was a well materialized ectoplasmic form, like Z. It was gray and colorless. And like him, I was thinking about something, that's all. And like him, it had weight. I could distinctly feel his back pressing against me as it lay beside me on the bed as a large dog might. I knew nothing about the art of making elementals at that time, but had accidentally stumbled upon the right method. The brooding, highly charged with emotion. See, highly charged with emotion. The invocation of the appropriate natural force and the condition between sleeping and waking, in which the etheric double readily extrudes. So it's kind of a good thing that this stuff don't be happening for us, because some of us be tripping, we be wilding out, we be out here causing all kinds of trauma to each other. So it's a good thing that this stuff don't just be happening like that. It's a good thing that people don't study this stuff that way. It's a good thing that people don't believe in this stuff. But at the same time, there are people who believe in this stuff and they don't use it for good. So, what does nature do? Balance things out. It sends people like me this stuff because I have good intentions. So to balance it out, it's like, okay, we got these so-called bad people over here. We need some so-called good people too to balance everything out. So it won't get too crazy. But it's not something that I dance and prance about, because sometimes I be thinking like, man, people be going crazy about this stuff. Like people become bipolar and schizophrenic and all that stuff about this stuff. So you gotta be careful. You gotta be mentally strong and emotionally strong. Because if you're not, you could end up in the psych ward. I'm not saying that to scare nobody. I'm saying that to point out the fact that I'm not just being a fanatic. I'm not just um, studying this stuff because I think it's fun. It's experiences that I had that led me to this. So I didn't choose this. That book chose me, if it makes sense. I didn't go out looking for this stuff. If it was up to me, I'd be a famous rapper. If it was, and it is up to me, I'll be a famous rapper. I'll be in the NFL. But other things happen in my life experience that made me know it's more to life than singing songs and playing sports. And I want to know about it. I still like to rap and make beats, and I still enjoy a good football game if I can get some people that want to play, especially being in your 30s. I got to play with the young people, but even most young people don't do this stuff unless I go to an actual football field where people already playing football. It can be done. But my point is, I still enjoy that stuff, and I still do it. But I enjoy this too. Okay, boom. But what I was saying was, people sometimes people end up in psych wards because of this stuff. So I'm saying this to y'all to let y'all know I'm not a fanatic. I'm not. I'm like, oh, ooh, ooh, just all goofy and woo woo in the head. No, I know what I'm dealing with, and I know that it's responsibility that come with this stuff. And I know I have to be brave and courageous because I don't know what can happen. I don't know what can happen. The more I get into this, the more what I can experience. But I do know one thing though. I'm gonna be brave and I'm gonna be courageous and I'm gonna use everything I learned to keep myself on track. But once again, let's just do this for now. I'm doing this for entertainment purposes. I'm doing this for research. I'm doing this to make sure I read all these books I bought and y'all can study with me. Because I'm going to read all these books and I'm going to do them on live. We doing this one. The next book we're going to read is Astral Projection, How to Astral Travel. We're going to read that. Then we're going to read the Kabbalion. I got some more stuff to read. We're going to finish Becoming Supernatural by Joe Dispenza. We're going to read all this, all this. So if you don't have these books, you can just come here and read it with me. And like I said, I could kill two birds with one stone. I get to read all these books I bought and that I found. Because some of these books I didn't buy. Some of these books was given to me as gifts. Some of these books I found. And some of these books I bought. But the point is, I get to read all of them, not wasting none of them. And I get to study with y'all. Even while I'm still working my 9 to 5, being the father, trying to get my Mac on, living my mundane life. See, you know what I'm saying? I was horrified at what I had done. And I knew I was in a tight corner and that everything depended upon my keeping. And that everything depended upon me keeping my head. That's what I was just saying. I had experiences. I had enough experience of practical occultism to know that the thing I had called into visible manifestation could be controlled by my will, provided I did not panic. But that if I lost my nerve and it got the upper hand, I had a Frankenstein monster to cope with. That's what I mean, what I was just talking about. That's what I meant. And it's just so funny that that just happened to be the next paragraph. But that's what I mean about keeping your head strong. Or you will end up in the cycle. Because shit will get out of control. So, like I said, it's good that people don't believe in this stuff. Don't try to convince nobody. If they're not ready for it, if they're not prepared for it, leave them alone. You do your work. You do what you feel like you're supposed to be doing. And that's it. You will meet the people you're supposed to meet. Other than that, leave it alone. Like I told myself, I don't want to be in no more relationships where I can't talk about stuff like this without somebody looking at me out the corner of their eye, pretending like they get what I'm coming from. I want if I'm gonna be in a relationship, if I'm gonna be married, I want my wife to be right here with me, reading this shit, saying, "Oh, ooh, right here with me." Other than that, go with somebody else. All right. I stirred slightly, and the creature evidently objected to being disturbed. For it turned its long snout towards me over its shoulder and snarled, showing its teeth. I had now got the wine up properly, but I knew that everything depended upon my getting the upper hand and keeping it. Now, that was reading on reading this book, because I don't know, y'all, maybe some of y'all could be experiencing this stuff. And this can help you. Don't freak out. Don't get scared. Do whatever you gotta do to let motherfuckers know. Physical and non-physical. You in charge. You ain't afraid. I'm not afraid of none of y'all or nothing. All y'all can kiss my spiritual ass at the end of the day. No matter what I gotta do. I'm not afraid of you. And you gonna respect that. Whether this is something I did intentionally or an accident. You gonna respect that shit. And that the best thing I could do was to fight it out now. Because the longer the thing remain in existence, the stronger it will get. And the more difficult to disintegrate. So I drove my elbow into his hairy ectoplasmic ribs and said to it out loud, if you can't behave yourself, you will have to go on the floor and push it off the bed. See what I'm saying? That's what I'm talking about. I read in the book somewhere, it's a dream book I got, and the dude said if you having a nightmare and you getting chased by a monster, don't freak out. You turn around, you face the monster, and you become a bigger monster. He said, if you have a dream, a nightmare, and you get and the monster bites you, bite the monster back. That's as practical as it can get. Bite his ass back. Let him know I'm not playing with you. You know, just like we do in this world. Everybody want to be gangster. Everybody want to be tough nowadays. Do the same shit when it comes to the spiritual world. If you come in my dreams, think you finna fuck with me? Oh no, I got something for your ass. But time and practice. I'm not saying your first nightmare you're gonna be biting heads off. Cause I wasn't. I used to be running from monsters and shit. Now I don't. Now I be like, I be killing stuff in my dreams now. Don't come in my dreams playing around. You gonna get killed. Down it went, meek as a lamb, and changed from wolf to dog, to my great relief. Then the northern corner of the room appears to fade away, and the creature went out through the gap. Now it will try to test you, and it can be very scary. It could be very scary. Imagine a big ass spider, a big giant ass spider with 16 legs was sitting on your bed when you woke up out your sleep. You're gonna be afraid. I'm not saying I'm not saying you like I'm, you better get out of my bed, spider. That's what you should do, but you gonna be you naturally somebody gonna be afraid they see that. They gonna wake up and say, like, oh shit. Naturally that's what's gonna happen. But you got the power to make that spider small because the power is within you. The kingdom of heaven is within you. God gave you dominion over all things. So you got the power to tell shit to back the fuck down. And when you say it and you mean it, they gonna back the fuck down. I was far from happy, however, for I had a feeling that this was not the end of it. And my feeling was confirmed when that morning another member of my household reported that her sleep had been disturbed by dreams of wolves, and she had awakened in the night to see the eye of a wild animal shining in the darkness in the corner of her room. I was just talking about this with the spiders. Now, thoroughly alarmed, I went off to seek advice from one whom I have always looked upon as my teacher. And I was told that I had made this thing out of my own substance by my revengeful thoughts, and that it was really a part of myself extruded, and that I must, at all costs, recall it and reabsorb it into myself. At the same time, foregoing my desire to settle accounts with the person who had injured me. Curiously enough, just at this time, there came an opportunity most effectually to settle with my antagonist. And that's another reason why I say forgive your enemy, because of your revengeful thoughts. See, we so powerful, we don't realize how powerful we are. So I know the Bible is just a copy and paste. I know a lot of people don't want to hear that, but I know the Bible is just a copy and paste from a lot of the ancient teachings. But there's still truth in our life when they say, "Forgive your enemies. Vengeance is mine, it's not yours." Because when you start having all these evil thoughts, we so powerful beings. We don't know how powerful we are. We don't know we're putting energy out into the atmosphere, and that energy cannot be destroyed. Y'all know the saying, energy cannot be what destroyed. It can only be. Y'all know what I'm trying to say. So you putting all this energy out, all this negative energy out. Where do you think it's going? You think it's just going in? You think it just is? What do you think is happening when you putting all these negative thoughts and emotions out into the atmosphere? What you think is happening with that? It's being used. It's creating something. So when you forgive your enemies, that helps you from creating stuff that you don't want to be not having any control of. You don't want to be creating monsters that you don't have no control of. Especially if you're not, you don't want to be creating monsters anyway, but if you're not the type of person who's just got a strong mind and a strong heart, you don't want to be creating no monsters because they're gonna run over you and the people that you think you sent them after. Fortunately for all concerned, I had enough sense left to see that I was at the dividing of the ways, and if I were not careful, would take the first step onto the left-hand path. If I avail myself of the opportunity to give practical expression to my resentment, the wolf form will be born into an independent existence. And there would be the devil to pay, literally as well as metaphorically. I received a distinct impression, and impressions are important things in psychic matters, for they often represent subconscious knowledge and experience. That once the wolf impulse had found expression in action, the wolf form will never. Let me go back. I received a distinct impression, and impressions are important things in psychic matters. For they often represent subconscious knowledge and experience. That once the wolf impulse had found expression in action, the wolf form would sever the psychic navel cord that connected it with my solar plexus, and it would be no longer possible for me to absorb it. Imagine how many of us are doing these things without even realizing. Imagine how many people fall asleep angry at people, wanting to hurt people, wanting to get revenge on people. The prospect was not a pleasant one. I had to forego my dearly loved revenge and allow harm to be done to me without defending myself. And I also had to summon and absorb a wolf form, which to my psychic consciousness at any rate looked unpleasantly tangible. Nor was it a situation in which I could either ask for assistance or expect more sympathy. However, it had to be faced, and I knew that with every hour of the thing's existence, it would be harder to deal with. So I made the resolution to let the opportunity for revenge slip through my fingers, and at first dust summoned the creature. It came in through the northern corner of the room again. Subsequently, I learned that the north was considered among the ancients as the evil quarter. It presented itself upon the hearthrug lay quiet in quite a mild and domesticated mood. I obtained an excellent materialization in the half light and could have sworn that a big Alsatian was standing there looking at me. It was tangible even to the dog like odor. From it to me stretched a shadowy line of ectoplasm. One end was attached to my solar plexus, and the other disappeared in the shaggy fur of its belly. But I could not see the actual point of attachment. I began by an effort of the will in imagination to draw the life out of it along this silver cord, as if sucking lemonade up a straw. Now she's telling you how she dealt with her will and imagination. Imagination is key. The wolf form began to fade. The cord thickened and grew more substantial. A violent emotional upheaval started in myself. I felt the most furious impulses to go berserk and rend and tear anything and anybody that came to hand, like the Malay running amok. I conquered this impulse with an effort, and the upheaval subsided. The wolf form had now faded into a shapeless gray mist. This too absorbed along the silver cord. The tension relaxed, and I found myself bathed in perspiration. That, as far as I know, was the end of the incident. I had a short blessing and a highly instructive one. It may not be convincing to other people, owing to the lack of corroborative evidence, but it was exceedingly evidential to me, and I put it on record for what it is worth to those who, having personal knowledge of these things, can see its significance. It is a curious point that during the brief 24 hours of the thing's life, the opportunity for an effectual vengeance presented itself. The next chapter is vampirism. So we always saw on energy, vampires, and stuff like that. So we're gonna see what they talking about next when they come to this. But I don't know. As far as I'm concerned, they could be talking about a real vampire. But they be going in this book. We gonna find out. But the main thing, as you can see, as we read in the book, is your mental state, your emotional state, your imagination, your belief system, the way you feel about yourself and other people, the way other people feel about you. So, like I said, once again, I'm not reading this book to cause anybody fear. It's called psychic self-defense. It's teaching you how to defend yourself, how to protect yourself if you caught in any of these situations. Because you're not going to always be able to tell people, hey, I saw a big ass werewolf in my room. The first thing they're going to do is give you some medicine, give you some pills, and throw your ass in the psych ward. Then you're going to be seeing the big ass werewolf in the psych ward. It's not funny. But you get the point. Instead of running your mouth, going up to tell everybody, you could do it yourself. Because God gave you dominion over all things. God made you powerful. So you don't have to be afraid of nothing, physical or non-physical. And like I said, with the spider in the bed, if a big ass spider pop up in your bed, of course you won't naturally be afraid. But just remember, I got the power. God gave me dominion over all things. Spider, use your imagination. Spider, get out my bed. Get your ass on somewhere. Imagine the spider is hornless and it'll become hornless. Peace and love. Y'all have a nice day. Like I said, I'm gonna read all these books. Not just these about this type of stuff, but all type of things. We're gonna read books about all type of things. After we finish this, which is psychic self-defense, the fear of death, and astral travel. Because we got this fear of death that we have to get rid of. We have to get over the fact that we gonna die. You gonna die. Ain't nothing you can do about it. Embrace it. Be prepared for it. Don't be afraid of it. Astral traveling is something that we all can tap into, not just to be fanatics, but to improve our physical lives. Because as above, so below. As within, so without. Peace and love, y'all. Have a nice day. I'll see y'all next time.